Tonight on Chronicle, a hometown hero
He played the game because he loved the game.
who took his skills to the heights of professional baseball.
And he played with heart.
Shoeless Joe Jackson, one of baseball's all-time greats.
He had one of the sweetest natural swings of anybody ever.
But the Black Sox scandal ends his career. Banned from baseball for life,
But if he was trying to throw a ball game, he did a poor job.
and still shut out of consideration for baseball's Hall of Fame.
So he's been acquitted in a court of law twice.
A baseball great and the effort to clear his name.
Americans believe in justice, and justice was not served.
Tonight on Chronicle, Shoeless Joe.
Good evening and welcome to Chronicle. I'm Jane Rovelo. Shoeless Joe Jackson is widely regarded as one of the best baseball players to have ever lived. But because of the 1919 Black Sox scandal and his subsequent ban from baseball, Jackson is not in baseball's Hall of Fame. Joe Jackson worked at the old Brandon textile mill up on the hill here on the west side of Greenville, and he developed his baseball skills on a field that was on this same spot more than a century ago. So how did a young boy who played textile ball make it to the game's biggest stage? To begin our story, here's Brad Freilich.
From a tenant farm in Pickens County, George Jackson heard the call of opportunity. A job and a home in the Brandon Mill Village in West Greenville, a chance for a better life for his family. Joe Jackson, the oldest of 8 children, began sweeping the floors of the mill at age 6.
It was tough in the mills, and he didn't like it, but he liked to play baseball, and the baseball offered him a way out.
By the age of 13, Joe's talent was obvious, and he was signed to the Brandon Mill men's baseball team of the Textile League, where he thrilled fans for 6 years. In 1908, while playing semi-pro ball with the Greenville Spinners, Jackson earned a nickname in just one game that stuck for a lifetime.
He hit a triple and got to third, and eventually during the course of that game, his cleats started wearing a blister on his foot, so he took them off.
Some old leather-lung fella fan in the stand says, "You son of a so-and-so. You shoeless son of a so-and-so." And that stuck with him. Scoop Latimer was the sports editor here in Greenville at the time. Scoop pinned that name on Joe.
It didn't take long for word of Jackson's talent to reach professional baseball. Connie Mack signed him in Philadelphia in 1908. Jackson also played in Cleveland and Chicago, where his career became legend. A career that included a 1917 World Series title. His great-great-nephew still has the ring Shoeless Joe made out of his World Series medallion.
You've got an infield in there with all 4 bases, and across the top from third base to first base reads World Champions. The diamond is the pitcher's mound, and then at home plate it says 1917. His name's down in here.
Jackson added a 1919 American League pennant and a .356 career batting average. Shoeless Joe and the White Sox lost the 1919 World Series in 8 games to the Cincinnati Reds. Back then, it was a best-of-9 series, and in 1920, he and 7 other White Sox players were accused of conspiring to throw the 1919 World Series.
The real baseball historians know Joe Jackson's story. I think casual baseball fans don't, and I think casual baseball fans are unaware that there is legitimate dispute still about the facts of the fixing of the 1919 World Series.
The players were suspended at the end of the 1920 season and put on trial in 1921. All 8 were found not guilty by a jury on all counts. Not long after the trial, newly elected baseball commissioner Judge Kennesaw Mountain Landis, who was given absolute power by the owners, banned the 8 players for life.
There's no doubt that all those who were banned knew about it. There's significant doubt as to whether they took part in it. And Kennesaw Mountain Landis banned everybody who even knew about it for not reporting it immediately, which they did not do. Some took the money and gave it back. Others took the money and yet didn't compromise their play. Others flat out threw games. We know that statistically Joe Jackson had a good series in 1919.
In that series, Joe Jackson hit .375, had 12 hits, which was a record that stood until 1964, and played error-free baseball.
He had to be the most valuable player during that World Series. But if he was trying to throw a ball game, he did a poor job.
According to excerpts from the 1920 grand jury testimony, Joe Jackson himself denied doing anything to throw a baseball game. Some say he ended up with $5,000 when that series was over. The family doesn't think so.
I've never had a family member say he took that money. I've heard others say it. I've heard others that know a lot more about baseball history than I do say he took it. I personally don't care either way. He told family that he didn't do anything, and that's good enough for me.
And the only thing that he ever told me was that he was innocent.
In 1942, 9 years before his death, Jackson told the Sporting News he was innocent of any wrongdoing and would put his World Series performance against any other player in history. Shoeless Joe Jackson died in 1951, and 63 years later is still banned from baseball.
63 years after his death, Shoeless Joe Jackson is still on baseball's ineligible list today, preventing him from being on the ballot for the Hall of Fame. But some say Jackson is already there. Coming up later, we'll take you to the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York.
The fight for a hometown hero.
He died in 1951. He served his sentence. He's more than served his sentence.
Coming up next on Chronicle.
When Joe Jackson was banned from baseball, he found his way back here to Brandon. This is the one place he was certain that people would believe him. He opened a business and he lived a quiet life. As Beth Brotherton reports, Jackson was generous with his time and his money. His legacy here is one of a hero.
Hey, we're going to play good baseball.
On a hot late summer night in the shadow of Brandon Mill.
Gentlemen, playing live.
Bats crack, dust flies.
Attaboy.
Just as it did a century ago.
Oh, yeah.
On the same ground where a legend took his first pitch.
Come on, come on, come on.
Joe Jackson, just 13, the same age as these boys here.
Come get it.
Playing among men.
Line up second.
Working 12-hour shifts on the mill floor, then swinging his bat for Brandon in the Textile League.
He persevered through all the trials and tribulations of growing up, hardship, sweeping floors next door to us, coming out here by himself, working out.
Today, this field that bears his name is a central part of Joe Jackson's Greenville legacy. Beside it, at Brandon, there's new life inside the old mill.
I love these old floors. Yeah, boy, if they could tell stories.
Recently purchased by a Georgia developer, the mill is being renovated into 150 condominiums and space for artists.
We're seeing the rebirth of the village of Brandon and having this mill created into beautiful apartments. I think it's a wonderful thing.
The arts are a growing part of West Greenville. This studio used to be a soda shop, a popular gathering spot for teens. Next door was the liquor store owned by Joe Jackson.
I stopped him. I said, Mr. Jackson, I'm Joe Anders. I've been wanting to meet you.
It took a teenage Joe Anders months to work up the nerve to say hello.
He was the most generous person you'd want to meet.
A budding baseball star himself, Anders knew exactly what to ask his hero.
I said, Joe, tell me, what is the most important thing about hitting? He says, keeping your eye on the ball. If you don't see it, you don't hit it.
The two became good friends, and Jackson took Anders under his wing. One time, Jackson even called Anders over to the liquor store to meet a special guest.
He says, I want you to meet Ty Cobb. Says, this is the greatest hitter that's ever played a game of baseball. When Ty Cobb immediately says, no. Says, Joe Jackson was the greatest hitter.
The building that housed the liquor store is unchanged, except for the old doors. They now hang inside the Shoeless Joe Museum.
I don't know if you know much about Shoeless Joe, but when you leave, you're going to be an authority.
The museum is housed in Joe's former home. He was moved to Greenville's West End in 2006. and opened in 2008.
Come on in.
Arlene Markley is the founder and curator.
We wanted Joe's house to be just that, a home. They call them lint heads. But
The foyer is a showplace for Joe's textile beginnings.
that's Joe right there.
The living room,
Made to Joe's specifications.
home to photographs, baseball bats, and statistics.
There's a picture of Babe Ruth and Joe right there beside you.
The front bedroom, the room where Joe died, is filled with memorabilia from his Chicago years, including a chair from the old Comiskey Park. The kitchen is just as it was when Joe and his wife Kate lived there.
I'd forgotten how much I really loved him until I went into that museum and I walked by the kitchen and then
Bobby Yergin knew Joe when she was a student at Bob Jones University. Her beloved aunt was married to Jackson's nephew and adopted son. Yergin says Joe became a Christian in his later years and sold his liquor store. She says he asked her to pray with him just days before his death.
and he was in that little iron bed, and I went over to his head and rubbed his hair and talked with him and prayed with him.
Yergin was instrumental in getting a statue in downtown Greenville in her uncle's honor. She jokes it wasn't until after his death she learned he was famous.
I thought, oh my, there was this great man, and I was just loving him as an uncle.
A legacy that lives on through those who loved him.
Joe was a regular person, a lovable person, generous person. He was just a great man in my book.
Come on, let's go.
And those who have learned from him.
On him now.
Generations in Greenville touched by his greatness.
Take advantage of a field that somebody else has done great things on.
Have it go three. 1, 2, 3. Hey!
As you just saw, Joe Jackson is a hometown hero here in Greenville. The local crowd loves him. But what about the rest of the country? Again, here's Beth Brotherton with a look at Jackson's national legacy.
Just off busy Wadehampton Boulevard, in a cemetery thousands drive past daily, is a gravesite many locals don't know is here, but people from around the world seek out.
This is a destination spot. They come here because of Shoeless Joe.
Leaving behind baseballs, white socks, cleats, all gifts for one of baseball's all-time greats. The worldwide interest is the same at the Shoeless Joe Jackson Museum.
Now, y'all are from Belmont, North Carolina?
One look at the guest book shows visitors from nearly every state and from other countries.
When I heard his story,
Museum curator Arlene Markley says it's a story that captivates.
he was found innocent by a court of law. It's like a Greek tragedy played out on a ball field. Americans believe in justice, and justice was not served.
NBC Sports' Bob Costas is a baseball scholar and Shoeless Joe fan. He visited the museum when he was in Greenville earlier this year. Costas believes Joe deserves a shot at the Hall of Fame.
My inclination is toward appreciation of his achievements and mercy after all this time.
Shortly after the ban, Jackson did write the commissioner to ask for a hearing, but it was denied.
And on his deathbed, he told his family, I didn't do anything. I'm innocent.
Soon, Arlene Markley and the Shoeless Joe Museum will kick off a national campaign using social media to create an online petition encouraging the new commissioner to lift the old ban.
He died in 1951. He served his sentence. He's more than served his sentence.
And if the messages left on baseballs at the gravesite are any indication, Markley's list of supporters will be long.
Mr. Jackson, I'm going to play for all the years that you couldn't.
Going to bat for a hero gone 6 decades.
I know you were innocent.
We want Joe's name restored to its good graces.
Restoring the reputation of one of baseball's best.
Still to come on Chronicle. A new generation is cheering for a player named Joe Jackson.
You know, having my son play baseball, kind of taking the family name back into baseball, yeah, there's a sense of pride for me there.
Some of Shoeless Joe Jackson's family still call the upstate home. In fact, a nephew, also named Joe Jackson, is creating his own place in the game that his ancestor loved. An all-state baseball player at Malden High School, an All-American at the Citadel, the next Joe Jackson is now working his way through professional baseball. Mark Dofer has the story of the player whose name always precedes him.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Follow the bloodlines of baseball.
Dig it. Thanks for coming out. Enjoy it.
And you'll end up here.
Thank you.
Crawdad souvenirs, $5.
Please welcome. This is where professional baseball begins. The minor leagues, Single A.
Hickory
It is the same game, but everybody's a little faster. Everybody can hit a little bit better.
Every player here hopes to make a name for himself. One player's name already synonymous with our national pastime.
Joe Jackson!
94 years after Shoeless played his final major league game, Joe Jackson is back in professional baseball. The great nephew of Shoeless Joe is in the Texas Rangers organization.
Let's go, Joe! Woo!
The first member of his family to play professional baseball since 1920. Baseball is in Joe Jackson's blood.
I'm my own player, you know, I'm a descendant of Joe, but I don't really feel any pressure or feel a burden. You know, I have a name to make for myself.
Having my son play baseball, kind of taking the family name back into baseball, yeah, there's a sense of pride for me there, and I don't know if it creates pressure on him or not, but I know he's proud of that fact as well.
He's been very good for our club.
Corey Ragsdale managed Joe Jackson during his first season of professional baseball, a season where Jackson emerged as one of the best hitters for the Hickory Crawdads.
Baseball was brought up to him every day since he could remember, and you know, that's probably a lot of the reason why he is so drawn to it, enjoys it so much.
The sounds of the game, the sound of the ball hitting the bat, the sound of the ball hitting the mitt, the smells, like just you smell hot dogs in the stands. It's just a beautiful game.
Nearly a century ago, that beautiful game banned Shoeless Joe Jackson. 4 generations later, the player that bears his name knows all he needs to know about Shoeless Joe.
Just to hear guys like Babe Ruth and those guys talk about his swing and how great of a hitter he was is pretty special. For me, that's enough. That's enough for me personally.
Joe Jackson doesn't stand on his name, he stands beside it. His bloodline won't help him make it to the major leagues.
But, I mean, that's the ultimate goal.
That journey is his alone.
That's where I want to be. Every day when I go to sleep, I just think about how lucky I am and how blessed I am to be able to still be playing ball.
Just ahead on Chronicle.
People come to the Hall of Fame, they want to see the great players they know.
A trip to baseball's Hall of Fame.
And people know all about Shoeless Joe, so put him in the Hall of Fame.
Major League Baseball, the Baseball Hall of Fame, and the Hall of Fame voters are 3 separate groups that come together for a common purpose: to honor the game's greatest players. In the case of Shoeless Joe Jackson, the ban from baseball is keeping him out of Cooperstown. But some of those who work at the Hall suggest he's already there. Mark Dofer takes us now to the National Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum in Cooperstown, New York.
In many ways, this place is so far away. Past fields and farmlands, down a country road woven through the mountains, you'll find the village of Cooperstown, New York. A place defined by baseball, defined by the past, where tomorrow is a little less important than yesterday. Main Street anchored by the building that cradles our national pastime.
We don't just talk about baseball between the lines. We talk about all baseball, whether it's amateur baseball or baseball in pop culture or whatever, and Joe Jackson permeates a lot of this.
Tom Schieber is the senior curator of the National Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum. He's the caretaker of the world's largest collection of baseball artifacts.
This is a 1915 Cracker Jack Joe Jackson card. This is all the signatures of the Chicago White Sox, including Joe Jackson. But that is an actual autograph of Joe Jackson's.
Schieber is a baseball historian, a student of this great game.
Everybody agreed that nobody really hit the ball as hard as Joe Jackson. Joe never did lead the league in batting average, but he has a 3rd highest batting average of all time. He was a great ball player.
The National Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum has a place for great ball players, the Plaque Gallery. Shoeless Joe Jackson's name isn't on a plaque. The Greenville native isn't in the Hall of Fame, but the senior curator here reminds people this place is more than a plaque gallery, more than a Hall of Fame. It's a museum, and in that sense, Shoeless Joe Jackson is already here.
And the Plaque Gallery, which is a great place to learn about these guys who've been voted into the Hall of Fame, doesn't really tell the entire history of the game. That's what this institution is about, is all of baseball, not just plaques on a wall. Believe me, if you come to Cooperstown, you're going to be able to see and learn about Joe Jackson, learn about the Black Sox scandal. That's part of baseball history.
He's something special, and you know, there's a couple guys that you wish to see in that Hall of Fame, and I think he's one that I would like to see there.
This is where the waters around the national pastime become murky. It's not that Hall of Fame voters won't vote for Shoeless Joe. They can't. This has nothing to do with the people who place the plaques in this gallery, and everything to do with the game they honor. Should Joe Jackson have one of those plaques?
When it does come to the Plaque Gallery, we do have rules about the election, and right now he's not eligible to be voted on simply because we have a rule that says that if you're on the lifetime ineligible list, you're not eligible to be voted on. And that's actually up to the commissioner's office. The commissioner is in charge of who's on that list and who isn't on the list.
There are hundreds of Hall of Fame voters. Many would cast a ballot for Joe Jackson, but it's against the rules.
People come to the Hall of Fame, they want to see the great players they know. People want to see Babe Ruth, people want to see Ty Cobb, and people know all about Shoeless Joe, so put him in the Hall of Fame. It's been long enough.
Here's a guy who hasn't played a game of Major League Ball in, what do we got now, well over 95 years. Yeah, and he's still part of the American vernacular. That's not an easy thing to do.
Shoeless Joe Jackson's biography doesn't say Baseball Hall of Famer, and maybe it never will. Getting to Cooperstown, New York can be a difficult journey. Sometimes that journey takes more than a lifetime.
Joe Jackson's skill and his talent and his love of the sport, well, that's never been questioned. And the circumstances surrounding the Black Sox scandal and Shoeless Joe's part in it, well, that's been debated for almost a century now. But there's a new commissioner of baseball, and there's a new national effort underway on behalf of Greenville's native son. Is it time for professional baseball to give him consideration? Nothing would make his hometown fans happier than to know that Shoeless Joe Jackson finally had a crack at baseball's pinnacle. Thank you for joining us for Chronicle, Shoeless Joe. I'm Jane Robelo. Good night.